Welcome to the Scene Podcast.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Scene Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Borak, joined by my wonderful producer and editor, KJ. KJ, how are you today?
I'm doing so good, Justin. I know this isn't technically theater related, but I just saw the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie in theaters for the first time in 20 years. Still holds up.
That is so good. I cannot wait for today's episode. We are interviewing one of my favorite people in the world, Sandy Rustin, Broadway playwright and actress, one of the most produced playwrights in the world. I mean, if you have seen Clue in your area, she's the one who wrote the adaptation. It is brilliant. Her most recent play, The Cottage, one of her most recent plays, we talk about all of her projects. One of her most recent plays, The Cottage, was on Broadway. It was directed by Jason Alexander. She's one of the most popular writers right now in the theater industry. She has such a distinct, brilliant voice for farce. She is so smart. She is so funny. She was lovely to talk to. So I'm going to stop talking, and we are going to get into the episode. KJ, let's keep going.
Shows you should know.
All right, it's time for Shows You Should Know, the segment where I get to do my favorite thing in the world, tell you all about plays and musicals you might not have heard of but need to consume ASAP. Guys, I'm so excited for this one, and of course, it's the Sandy Rustin episode, so I have to start off with the suffragettes' murder. Now, we talked about it a little bit on the show, but I want to talk about it again here and give you a little bit more of a description of the actual plot, right? It's the morning of July 5th, 1857, and the tenants of Mayhew's boarding house on New York's Lower East Side are getting ready for a busy day. They're an odd bunch, given their surroundings. Among them are a mute, an Irishman, a gay black man, two Southern belles, and the Mayhews themselves, a husband and wife team committed to advancing the women's suffrage movement. As they prepare to host an important gathering, they receive an unexpected visit from a constable. One of the tenants has been murdered. Dude, this is the most Sandy Rustin play ever. You have farce, you have a whodunit. On top of that, it is incredibly feminist. It tells the story of the women's suffrage movement. It teaches you, it educates you. It is so Sandy Rustin. It's just so good. It's absolutely her style, and it's beautiful. And here's the other thing. Clue is huge. The Cottage is blowing up. If you're someone who likes Sandy Rustin stuff and you're producing work and you're trying to put shows up at your theater with the names of playwrights and not their biggest things, be one of the first theaters to put up the suffragettes' murder. Really, I believe she said the Denver Center of Performing Arts is putting it up in 2024, in April or in, I forget when, but I know they're doing it. But this show is wonderful. When I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, she is coming off of the page with her classic feminist, farcical style. I loved The Cottage. I thought it was hilarious. I love Clue. I think it's one of the best adaptations of that ever written. And the suffragettes' murder gives the same vibe, gives the same energy, but with a different title, with a different story. Honestly, has a lot more education behind it almost. It really dives into feminism, into the women's suffrage movement, into what it was like in the 1850s. It's such an important and good and funny play. It's so good. The Suffragettes' Murder, great play. Check it out. The next one I'm going to talk about, a little bit of trigger warning, child abuse, but it's an important play. And it's a play I just recently read by one of my favorite playwrights, Lucy Prebble. It's called The Sugar Syndrome. Now, I never read this play, but I'm going to read you the synopsis, okay? The Sugar Syndrome is a blackly comic and bravely provocative play that explores the relationship between a troubled teenage girl and a child abuser she meets over the internet. Despite the dark subject matter, this is a wonderfully funny play that takes a fresh look at damaged people and how they can find refuge in each other. The protagonist, Danny, a 17-year-old girl, sparkles and thrusts her way through the play with a rage-fueled energy. Her mother, Jan, tries to come to terms with empty nest syndrome and an absent husband, while Lewis, a lovesick boy in his 20s, tries to woo Danny despite his inexperience. As Danny's relationship with the much older Tim becomes more intense, he asks her to help him with those things most precious and most dangerous to him in the world. This play is sad, it is smart, it is educational, and on top of all of that, it is funny. It's one of the best balanced plays I've ever read. Lucy Prebble, now I love The Effect. The Effect by Lucy Prebble is one of my favorite plays ever written. It's brilliant. And I cannot believe that her style allows her to take such intense subject matter that they hit in The Sugar Syndrome and keep the levity and keep the lightness in it for people to be able to watch it and be uncomfortable, but understand it and have a dialogue after. It's one of those plays that I want it to happen in person, and I want to go see it just for the conversations after the show. It's a beautiful play. The Sugar Syndrome, Lucy Preble, absolutely amazing. Ugh, it's so good. And then I'm gonna end it with something that I'm embarrassed by, but I'm gonna do it anyway because a lot of you are listening, and I have no shame. It's Cabin Chronicles by Justin Borak. Look, my new play got published. I'm really excited about it. I wanted to talk about it. I love horror, and it's a horror play, and I wanted to let people know. It's published through Play Scripts, but here, I'll give you a synopsis. Okay. Josh, OC, and Will are alone in an empty cabin at night in the woods, the perfect setting for a scary story competition. The three boys try to outscare each other with a tale of zombies, lab accidents, and teenage slashers to distract each other from the pain of high school. A horror comedy about the fear of standing out and the friends you make when you decide you don't care about fitting in. It's a really cute play. I love writing plays that are really versatile. And Cabin Chronicles, it looks at these three boys as they're telling these horror stories around a campfire. And these three ghost stories, these three horror stories are happening behind them in the cabin. So it really allows you to have like an acting troupe in all of the shows, or have a massive cast and have everybody in it. It's a very, very fun, very cool play that I'm really, really proud of. And after writing Community Garden, I knew I wanted to write something that is versatile, that people could do. And the thing I'm most proud of with this play is that in the back, we have an annex scene where you could do one of the three stories and make it its own thing. So it can either be a full-length play, which is what it is, or it can be a 40-minute play. And the most important thing to me of all of this is that my favorite genre of entertainment is horror. I love horror so much, and I know it's so hot and so fun right now, and I wanted to get it on the stage while also being open to being as bloody or as not bloody as you want, as intense or as palatable as you want. So yeah, I'm really proud of this play. It just got published. I'm really proud of it. Go check it out. Cabin Chronicles by me, Justin Borak. And then, of course, oh my gosh, The Sugar Syndrome by Lucy Preble and The Suffragettes Murder by Sandy Rustin. Three awesome plays. Selfishly, I'm talking about one. But also the other two plays are absolutely amazing. The Sugar Syndrome and The Suffragettes Murder they're two of my favorite plays I've read recently. So yeah, go check those plays out.
Theater in a minute.
That's right. It's time for Theater in a Minute, where I explain something from theater past, present, or future as quickly as my brain lets me. And today's topic is something pretty contemporary, but something that I love very much. Today we're talking about the Humana Festival. The Humana Festival of New Freaking Works at the Actors Theater of Louisville. It's going to be a short one, but I love talking about this. It's one of my favorite places in the world. Okay, so KJ, let's get to it. Start the clock in 3, 2, 1. The Humana Festival of New American Plays is an annual event held in Louisville, Kentucky that showcases new works by contemporary American playwrights. It's hosted by the Actors Theater of Louisville and is one of the most renowned regional, it might be the most renowned new works festivals in the country. Currently, it's on a hiatus. I hope it comes back. Oh gosh, I hope it comes back. It's so important to me. Anyway, the festival typically spans several weeks and features a series of productions, readings, panel discussions, and other events focused on new works in American theater. It's a significant platform for emerging and established playwrights to present their latest creations to audiences, industry professionals, and theater enthusiasts. One of my deepest regrets is not getting into the Humana Festival before it went on a hiatus, because I had never been to one. I want to. I would like to think, and I could be wrong, I would like to think it's South by Southwest, or like Sundance, but for theater nerds. So it's all I've ever wanted. Since its inception in 1976, I didn't know it was that old, the Humana Festival has premiered numerous groundbreaking plays that have gone on to achieve critical acclaim and commercial success. Some notable works that premiered at the festival include The Gin Game, Crimes of a Heart, and The Drowsy Chaperone. I didn't know that until I started doing research for this today. You learn something new every day. The Drowsy Chaperone started at Humana Festival. Boom, bring it back. The festival name, it comes from the Humana Foundation, which has been a long-time supporter of Actors Theater of Louisville and its commitment to fostering new theatrical talent. This whole thing served as a celebration of American theater and a vital platform for the development and promotion of new voices in the theatrical landscape. Now, I know they're on a hiatus, and I hope they are able to work everything out and maybe come back one day. But what I wanted to do, Humana Festival collections, I think, are the best thing for young actors to get to mine for material because it's some of the best playwrights and some of the newest playwrights in the world putting out very, very, very cool stuff. And not a lot of people have them. Now, you can buy a lot of the Humana Festival books on Playscripts, I believe, is their like current publisher. But, but I have a very elaborate collection, and I very proudly have only ever gotten my copies of the Humana Festival from the wild. That's right. That's garage sales. That's half-price books. That's where I'm pulling all of mine, and I'm very, very proudly doing it. So I'm going to read you a couple of my favorite plays. I'm not going to like read you the play, but a couple of my favorite collections. So I have a bunch. They're all between 94 and 2019, which I think is the most recent one. Some of my favorites immediately, they all fell. If you heard that, that was them falling. One of my favorites is How to Defend Yourself by Liliana Padilla. It's an amazing play. It won the Yale Drama Prize too. It's truly so, so good. That's 2019. Another one from 2019 is The Thin Place by Lucas Nath. I'm a big Lucas Nath nerd. I love Lucas Nath more than anything in the world. That was another book falling. Give me a second. We're fine. Bunch of books fell. It's fine. Because I would stop this, but I want to keep talking about the Humana Festival. Okay, really quick. Some other of my favorites. Death Tax, also by Lucas Nath. An amazing, amazing, amazing play. Oh gosh, it's so freaking good. What else is on here that I like? This is the 2012. Oh, Eat Your Heart Out by Courtney Barron. An amazing play. I love that one. Appropriate. Brandon Jacob Jenkins just had its Broadway premiere. Started here. Knit by Will Eno. An amazing play. Two Conversations Overheard on an Airplane by who? Sarah Rule. Sarah freaking Rule wrote a play that you've probably never heard of. Mallory Avedon. Oh, Guru, or Why I Don't Want to Go to Yoga Class with You. An amazing play also. I'm only going to go through one more. So give me Maple and Vine, Jordan Harrison. Oh, such a good freaking play. The Edge of Our Bodies, Adam Rapp. Amazing. A Devil at Noon, and Washburn. That's just from 2011, 2019, and like 2012. That's literally just those couple. Screw it. I'm going to do one more. I think there's one I really, really like in this play. Is there? Oh, yeah. The Unseen by Craig Wright is crazy. This is from 2007. The moral of the story, Humana Festival is dope. I love it very much. Those are some great plays that a lot of people have never heard of, or you have heard of and you're like, holy smoke, it came from the Humana Festival. It did. That's the Humana Festival. I love it a lot. All right, I'm going to stop being a nerd. KJ, let's go to the next segment.
And now, an interview with Sandy Rustin.
All right. This week, I'm joined by Sandy Rustin, Broadway playwright and actress, is one of the most produced playwrights in America after penning the Clue adaptation that we are seeing all over the country. Her play, The Cottage, was brought to Broadway, being directed by Jason Alexander. Sandy is one of the most popular writers in the theater industry. She has so many projects and a brilliant, distinct voice in comedy playwriting. We are so lucky to have you here. Sandy, how are you?
That was such a nice intro. Thank you.
No,
I'm
of
so happy
course.
to
I'm a
meet you.
huge fan. We were chatting for a second before this, but I got to meet Sandy after I went to go see The Cottage with a mutual friend of ours, and it was wonderful. It was one of my favorite. I haven't laughed that hard in the Broadway theater in a long time.
Oh, that makes me feel so happy. Thank you so
No, I'm
much.
glad. And I want to start with that because for this job and for like all the theater content I make, I read so many plays, and so many playwrights have like really distinct styles, and you have this like you write so many different projects, and I can't wait to talk about all of them. But you have such a distinct style for this like farcical comedy. I want to like with Clue and with The Cottage. How is how does your brain take on a play like that? Because I mean, it's just so full of jokes. Like you pack so many jokes into this like farce. I was wondering how you go at when you're how you come at a play when you know it's going to be this big farcical kind of mess of a play kind of thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, sure. Let's see how best to answer that question. A couple things. First, I grew up in a house with a really funny dad. He was a pediatrician, but he was also, just told jokes nonstop. So by the time I think I was 7 years old, I had memorized the Abbott and Costello "Who's on First" routine with my
Oh,
dad, and like,
really?
yeah, like that was how we
That's
entertained
amazing.
ourselves. Other kids would listen to music. We listened to comedy albums in my house. So I think I grew up with a rhythm of understanding the joy of what it feels like when comedians are in the pocket with each other, and
Yeah.
that dialogue and that banter feels great together. You know, I grew
Yeah.
up watching the Carol Burnett show, um, and that just that physical comedy, and I think what I loved about it, what I was attracted to, was how you could take an honest, truthful situation, and if you just raise the stakes high enough and you
Hmm.
play the truth of it, there is so much space to twist and turn yourself into comedic scenarios. And
Yeah.
I loved that. I still do. I love that challenge. And so when I'm writing something, really, I just try to continuously write myself into a corner and then figure out how to get out of it in a way
That's
that's
so
truthful and
fun.
makes sense. Um, and I tend to write real physical comedies as well,
Hmm.
where
Oh
the
yeah,
the dialogue and the physicality are just hand in hand. So it's never really that I'm
absolutely.
seeking to write a joke as much as it is that I'm seeking comedic situations and the honesty within it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
Oh, that's so cool. And I watched an interview with you about your other play, the Suffragette Murders,
mhm,
or the Suffragettes Murder,
yep.
and you talk about using comedy and like laughter to help you dive more into like serious topics. I would love for
Yeah.
you to talk about that and like that play itself and how you find like those two things have gone hand in hand with your writing.
Sure. Well, especially with The Cottage and with this new play, which is also a period feminist farce. It's called The
Hmm.
Suffragettes Murder, that will premiere next year. That's the one you're talking about. And then
Yeah.
I'm working on a new one right now as well about the Ladies' Home Journal. There's lots and lots of people that are writing real serious stuff all the time. And
Hmm.
I love to be an audience member in
Yeah.
those kinds of shows. But for me, I come at things from a comedic angle, and I'm always interested in figuring out how can you talk about something serious with a comedic twist to it. It's a
Hmm.
bit of spoonful of medicine kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
mentality
Yeah.
for audiences, and sometimes I feel like the way an audience will receive information, it's different. The tone in which it's being given to them. So if you can present comedic material, serious material in a comedic way,
Hmm.
sometimes audiences absorb that in a way that they might not have been able to absorb that if it's being fed to them earnestly. So it's just another way of communicating information that feels important.
Yeah, that's so cool. I feel like when people find a way to like tell a true story through a style of theater that is like incredibly difficult, because I we have so much contemporary theater and I love every piece of it. But it's so hard to find plays like The Cottage or like the play that goes wrong. Like these
Mhm.
plays that are so funny and have such a farcical energy to it, but also still say something, get a story across and make you like feel things for the characters. It's just such an amazing, amazing thing. And before we went off, I was told by my producer beforehand that you could maybe read a little bit of the Suffragette Murders.
Ooh,
If you would
sure.
want to, we would
Oh,
love to hear
okay.
a little. That would be so dope. But
Yeah,
if yeah,
of course. Okay, so well, I just have the first few pages, so I can just read a few pages of it.
please.
Um, should I start with stage directions? Do you want to even hear
Yeah,
the
yeah,
story?
I love a good stage direction. So
Okay, so
please.
all right, this play is called The Suffragettes Murder, Act 1. Lights rise on the interior of the well-kept Mayhew boarding house. We see the front door and inner vestibule, as well as a once grand, large-windowed sitting room, furnished and decorated more than a generation ago in early 19th century American Empire style. To the right of the vestibule, a staircase to the second floor leads up to a visible second floor hallway lined with 5 tidy tenant room doors. A swinging door leading to the kitchen is off to one side. It is early morning, and sunlight streams through the stained glass transom above the front door. The curtains in the sitting room are drawn, though sunlight peeks through. Light carries on through the swinging kitchen door as well, where sounds of breakfast being prepared can be heard. Unnoticed, off to the side, sits Mr. Orton, deep in thought in a plush chair resembling a throne. After a moment, Mrs. Mayhew, a pragmatic, organized feminist preparing for an awfully big day, enters from the kitchen, dismayed to find the curtains not yet drawn. Upon her entrance, Mr. Orton sits up a bit straighter. Mrs. Mayhew calls up the stairs, "Lorley!" She moves to open the curtains, mumbling to herself, "Ungrateful wench. I haven't got my rent money, Mrs. Mayhew, but I promised to make it up in service. I'll be down at the dawn's first crack." I'll give her a first crack. She's opened curtains that illuminate Mr. Orton. She startles with a gasp. "Mr. Orton!" He puts up a hand in apology. Sitting here in the dark like some sort of criminal. We've got to break this habit of yours. Lorley! You can't linger silently. Your presence unknown, Archibald. The other tenants have started to complain. Lorley, I'm not going to call you again. Not today, of all days. By now, all the curtains are drawn. Sunlight streams in. As she calls up, Mr. Mayhew, with a spring in his step, enters from the kitchen. As dialogue continues, on the second floor, Mr. Albright comes out of his door, fusses with the lock, and makes his way down. Do you want more? Or should we
No,
stop
that
there?
was literally, oh my gosh, that was literally amazing. That was
That's
all
the,
I could have,
the beginning moment of the play.
that's all I could have ever asked for. It's so wait, so wait, tell us a little bit more about this play. So it's, you said it's having its, I know it was commissioned by Florida Studio Theater,
Yep.
and
So,
it's,
yeah, Florida Studio Theater during the pandemic got a grant to commission 4 U.S. playwrights at the 100th anniversary celebration of the start of women's suffrage in America. They got a grant to commission 4 U.S. playwrights to write anything they wanted, any play they wanted on the subject of suffragettes.
that's
And
awesome.
so I said, can I write a comedy? And they said, sure. So I wrote The Suffragettes' Murder. And then it was selected as part of the 2023? Yeah,
Mhm.
2023 New Plays Summit at Denver Center for Performing Arts.
Oh, cool. Okay,
Yeah,
sweet.
and then Denver Center selected this play to go on and have its world premiere next year. So we'll start rehearsals in January.
That's so exciting. Oh
Yes,
my
I think so
gosh.
too. Thank you.
That's amazing. I cannot wait. I might have to take a trip out to Denver because that sounds, I got to read, I read it the other day, and it's wonderful.
Oh,
Oh, that's,
thank you.
your voice is so distinct, and I think the greatest example of that is Clue. You penned this Clue adaptation that has taken the world by storm, like wildfire. It's just exploded. What's that feel like when you write an adaptation in this specific style and everyone, I know it's going on tour now, and it's going literally, I'm a graduate student at West Virginia University. Literally, like, our professional theater here is doing it this summer. Just
Amazing. Oh,
every season I look at, I see Clue by Sandy, adapted by
oh my
Sandy
gosh.
Rustin, and I'm like, it's so exciting. So
It
how's
is.
that feel?
It's amazing. When you're a playwright, it's a very solitary art form because you're
Mhm,
mostly alone in your office or wherever you choose to write, writing something, hoping that one day you'll have an opportunity to share it with people. And
mhm.
sometimes that can mean just a reading, or sometimes it's just a workshop, or, if you're lucky, maybe there's a regional production. For Clue to have caught on in this way, to become one of the most produced plays in the country, and to
Yeah,
be being presented all over in professional theaters and really in high schools everywhere. I've had such an amazing opportunity to speak to students all over the world. And
yeah.
now our national tour just opened last week out of the Orpheum Theater in Minneapolis, and we're
Mhm.
booked for the next couple of years. Like, it's really thrilling to be
That's
able to
amazing.
reach this many people.
Yeah.
And it's 85 minutes. It's just intended to make people smile and have a great time. So to be able to bring laughter across the country in
Oh,
this
yeah.
way is it's so gratifying. So this has been
It's
a surprise, amazing, wonderful experience.
it's so cool. I've read it a bunch of times. I've seen The Cottage. Like, I feel like if I were to bring, like, my if I were to have to bring someone who's not really in the theater community to a play to be like, "You're gonna love theater, I swear," I'd bring them to a Sandy Rustin play because I just
Oh,
feel like
that's what a nice thing to say. Oh my
it's
goodness,
just, I
thank
mean,
you.
I remember sitting there with our friend at the show watching The Cottage, and you and I hadn't met for the first time, and I was watching, just laughing for 90 straight minutes. It
That
was an
makes me
absolute,
so
and I mean, you had a
happy.
star-studded cast in The Cottage,
Yeah.
but it's just like your writing, it's so quippy, and you're right, like, it is just these comedic situations that you're constantly, it's so interesting to hear you talk about putting yourself into a corner and finding a way out,
Hmm.
because that is such a, like, comedian's dilemma of,
Yeah.
like, creating situations and then finding a funny opportunity to get out of that to just find another one.
It makes me so happy to hear you say that. I think sometimes, well, I should say it this way. When I was a teenager, my dad got really, really sick. And one of
Mhm.
the things that really helped us along the way were, of course, those comedy albums that we had listened to when I was
Yeah.
younger. And also, I think we watched the entirety of Seinfeld. We
Mhm.
watched My Cousin Vinny probably 150 million times.
Yeah.
We were seeking laughter because laughter was a comfort during a really difficult time. And I have taken that with me into my professional adult life of
Yeah.
knowing that, look, it might not be brain surgery. I might not be, shifting the stars and the universe by creating fun nights out at the theater.
Mhm.
But what I do aim to do is to create moments of respite for people,
Yeah.
to come to a theater and perhaps leave all their troubles aside for an hour to an hour and a half and just have
Yeah.
fun. And that's something that I love that I can do professionally. Makes me so happy. So it makes me feel really good to hear you say that. So thank
No,
you.
I'm so glad. And here's the thing, if I was, like, obsessed with a playwright, it would be you. And then you did and then you did something else recently that made me lose my mind. So, growing
What?
up, my mom was a huge Julia Roberts fan,
Oh,
and yeah, and I
I know
was
where
like,
this
"Oh."
is going.
I know. So, I was like I was getting emails from Leah, our, like, interview, and she's like, "Hey, we have Sandy Rustin coming on the show," and I was like, "Oh, exciting. I've met her. She's great." And I went onto your Instagram that I haven't checked in a minute, and I went on and I was like, "No way." 'Cause you just wrote you guys adapted Mystic Pizza
Yes.
into a musical. What
Yes.
the heck is that? What's
I
going
know,
on?
I know. It's the most fun ever. Talk about a joy bomb of a show.
Yeah,
It's a wild dose of nostalgia, sprinkled with some solid feminist
yeah,
sensibilities. It's the story of three young women coming of age in the late '80s, just as it was in the movie. But
mhm,
this stage version goes a little bit deeper to create real arcs for our three young women that are coming of age, so that they want something more than just a relationship with a man. Although there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with having a wonderful romantic relationship, that doesn't necessarily have to be the end all be all or the only
yeah.
thing that these young women want. So the show kind of takes a couple steps further in exploring what that looks like. And the score is comprised of hits from the 80s and 90s. And
That's
it's literally
awesome.
like it's literally the soundtrack of my teenage years. And it
That's
is
so sweet.
so fun. Um, and it's
Oh,
another collaboration with my friend and director, Casey Hushin, who's the
yeah.
director of our production of Clue. So
Oh,
that this
cool.
was our second project together, Mystic Pizza,
That's
and so
so
that's been a
amazing.
joy as well. Yeah,
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's I mean, even that show, that just opened in California, right? Or it
right.
it just
Yep.
had its run in California.
Yeah, it opened at La Mirada Theater,
Yeah,
just outside of Los Angeles, and then it's been at a theater outside of Sacramento, and now it was just outside of San Francisco,
that's
and
amazing.
now we're figuring out where the next phase will be.
That's
Yeah,
so exciting. That's
yeah.
awesome. And I mean, like, while we're on musicals, I learned this from an email you sent the other day that again, I'm like, if I'm falling in love with a playwright, it's Sandy Rustin. Dude, you're turning one of your plays, so you wrote a play called Houston about it's a modern love story between a Jewish girl and a Jordanian boy,
Right.
and you're turning it into a musical with Bright Star's Edie Brickell. Where did this collaboration come from other than my dreams? I don't understand.
Can you
Like,
believe it?
that's
Okay, so
wild.
yes. So I wrote this play a long time ago, and it's loosely based on my own life experience.
Mhm.
Um, and I always felt like it should be a musical, but I wrote it as a play. But there are lots of sections of the play where I wrote like, this might be a song. They might dance here. And I just
Mhm.
and I sort of set it aside because I wasn't quite sure how the play was meant to function because it felt to
Yeah.
me like it was designed to be a musical, but not a traditional musical, blah, blah, blah. So then, cut 2 years later, I did this adaptation for New York City Center Encores of I Married an Angel, which is an old
Mhm.
Rodgers and Hart musical that my friend Sarah Salzberg and I helped to adapt.
Oh, yeah.
And I developed this relationship at New York City Center, and then after that they did a production of Dear World, and I connected with Josh Rhodes, who was the director there, and he and I had previously known each other and worked together, but we sort of really got to work together on that old Jerry
Yeah.
Herman show, adapting it into
Yeah.
this new version for city centers. Anyway, in working with Josh, he was the choreographer on Bright Star. And so he had this
Oh.
relationship with Edie Brickell, and she was looking for a book writer for a show she was developing. And so
Mhm.
she and I started to talk about that, and one thing led to another, and she wanted to read some of my other stuff. And I shared this play with her. sort of with the caveat of this is written as a play now, but I think it might want to be a musical. And she called me crying after she read it. And she said, Sandy, I love this so much. It absolutely should sing. And I want to be the person to make that happen. So
What a
she and I
phone
have,
call.
oh my God, I know.
Oh
So
my
she and I have
gosh.
been collaborating over Zoom and phone calls and, all the things for a while. And then we're about to get together and have like a week-long session together to really start to work together in earnest on it, and figure out how this play is going to sing. So I can't wait.
That is so exciting. I
I
cannot wait
agree.
to hear all about it. I feel like your work spans so many different genres and so many different types of theater. And I wanted to end this interview by asking you about something else because truly, like, we just had Douglas Lyons, who wrote Chicken and
Oh
Biscuits,
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him, I freaked out with him because he wrote for the Fraggle Rock thing. And I was
Uh-huh.
telling him, like, I love the Jim Henson Company. I grew up on them. And I was going through your website and I see that you're working on something with the Jim Henson Company. You're working on like a piece with JC Media Consulting that's tailored for kids. I am so impressed by your massive span of like different things that you create. Going into these other pieces, because like personally, like the pieces that I've written have primarily been for like high school audiences. What is it like writing all these like things that go to Broadway and tour and all this stuff, and now you're shifting to, I don't know what you're making with the Jim Henson Company, and if you can talk about it at all, I'd lose my mind. But tailoring pieces for kids as well and writing something for a younger audience, how does your brain kind of shift for that?
Yes. So, okay, that was a big question. So let me
I
see
know.
if
I'm
I can.
sorry.
No, no,
I
it's
saw.
okay. I
Yeah.
want to separate it out into different pieces. So,
Yeah.
I actually have always loved writing YA and writing for young audiences. In
Yeah.
fact, there was a time in my young life where I thought maybe what I really wanted to do was open a children's theater company and just exclusively write and work with
Yeah.
kids. I really love that part of my life. So I
Mhm.
have been writing for children for a long time. I wrote the
Yeah.
American Girl musical
Oh
for
yeah.
Mattel. Yeah. So I love that. And to be perfectly honest, I don't really see a difference between writing for children and writing for adults. You're just writing for people.
Yeah.
And it's just as honest and just as fun and just as funny. All the components are the same no matter no matter the subject matter, right?
That's an amazing
So
way to look at it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't really perceive it too big of a difference other than who your target audience is. If you're writing
Yeah.
for a 7-year-old, your vocabulary might be different than if you're writing for a 40-year-old.
Yeah.
But other than that, I find the process quite similar. The Jim
Mhm.
Henson project that I have been working on is actually not for children. It's an adult television show that is designed to utilize their new digital puppeteering system.
Whoa.
And it's pretty
I'm
cool.
sorry, my editor and producer is literally commenting what, "Oh my god," in the chat because we're getting so excited. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah, it's a very cool idea that was brought to me by one of the executives at Jim Henson.
Mhm.
Um, and so funnily enough, you can see me in my voiceover booth. I have a parallel career I'm also an actor, so I've worked in
Mhm.
voiceover for many years.
Yeah.
And they were looking to develop a show about a voiceover, a woman who worked in voiceover. And
Oh,
so when my materials came in and they saw that was also an expertise of mine, I started to have meetings there. And so I took a bunch
yeah.
of meetings and one thing led to another. So yeah, so now I'm developing this show with them and it's been really cool.
That's so exciting. Oh my gosh. Well, Sandy, seriously, thank you so much for chatting with me today. You have so many amazing things that are on the horizon that have already happened, and I cannot wait for people to read and see all of your stuff.
Thanks. That's so nice. You've been such a nice interview. I will talk with you any day. You're like the
No, of
nicest
course. Oh
person.
my gosh, please don't say that. I'll text you all the time. Go see The Suffragettes Murder in Denver in 2025, right?
Yep. Yep.
Clue is on tour and you can license it. The Cottage is licensed through Dramatist, so you can go check that out too. Go check out all of these pieces. If Mystic Pizza is happening in your area, I will be incredibly jealous. So go see that also. And thank you so much, Sandy, for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure.
And that's our show. Thank you guys so much for listening. It meant so, so, so much. And the first person I have to thank is Sandy Rustin. Oh my gosh, an amazing interview. It was such an awesome time talking to you. Go check out Clue. Go check out The Cottage. Go check out Mystic Pizza. Go check out The Suffragettes Murder. Oh my gosh. I cannot and will not stop talking about how awesome the plays are that Sandy puts out. The farce, the stuff she can do with comedy, I think no other playwright can do right now better. Sandy is killing it. Seriously. Oh my gosh. I cannot wait. A local regional theater company near me is doing Clue, and I'm gonna be there with Bells on. I'm so excited. Yeah, Sandy, thank you so much. It means the world getting to talk to people like you, and I hope all of you enjoyed our interview. I have to thank my team over at The Scene, Zach, Leah, AJ. I love you all very much. We could not do the show without you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, go check us out everywhere. Go check out the newsletter, thescenenews.com. The Scene News on Instagram, the Scene News on TikTok. Look at all of our theater content, and I'm going to end this episode the way I end every episode, by saying the same thing every student says at the end of a scene class that maybe they weren't prepared for, but they're really trying to sell. And scene. I did jazz hands at the end there. You can't see it, it's a podcast, but I did do jazz hands. See you next time. Bye.
The Scene podcast is made possible by our host, Justin Borak, our co-producers, Leah Barker and KJ Lampar, and our executive producer, Zach Dulli. Don't forget to follow the show wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date with our latest theater antics and exclusive interviews. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you again next time.